Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. It is our distinct pleasure and privilege to welcome you to this 14th episode of God is Not White, our investigation or our exploration of the relationship that we Africans have with the Christian religion, the Judeo-Christian faith. And so we've covered a few items in the past weeks. And this evening again, we have a set of slides to share with you. And we hope that you are going to like, share, and spread the word with regards to this program, God is Not White. I remind you that you can go on my website, jafricahaiti.com. You reach the same if you type godisnotwhite.com. And when you reach there, there is one item where you can click God is Not White, and you will find all of the programs that are aired. And then once a program has been aired, I try to put it on at least the next day. And so you will never miss anything. So you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it live on Facebook, but you can also go on the website, jafricahaiti.com, to catch up if you've missed anything at all. And so this evening, we have a program that is slightly different in that we are really going to be speaking about an idea, a set of concepts, one of which that I have developed over the past few years called Remanbre, and we'll discuss that in the third part. But we will begin with restitution and reparations. And so I really hope that folks who are connected to the program will actively participate, asking questions, making comments, provide references, recommendations for follow-ups, because this is really an active file. There's a lot happening, and we hope that your contribution will help us move further ahead on this important file. Those of you who are tennis fans, or even if you're not, you might have heard Naomi Osaka, who's multi times champion in her field, who was playing in Miami. And she made a statement in response to French folks who were asking for the Statue of Liberty, to be brought back to France, because they don't like the current president of the United States. And Naomi Osaka took the opportunity to remind the French that since we are talking about people returning what doesn't belong to them, uh, France should return to Haiti the money that it had stolen. And so this is known as restitution. We're going to be talking about that this evening. In the previous weeks, we covered twin deceits, to look at how the idea that God is white and whiteness is godly has permeated the colonial and neo-colonial space. We took a look at the contrast between God and religion as we understand these to be. We talked about the fact that Christianity, Judeo-Christianity, as it has been introduced to us Africans of the continent and of the diaspora, is really a dictatorship of old white men in long robes. And still on that same theme, we had seen how it is really their words, their votes, their book, their Jesus for their purpose. And so we talked about the history of Christianity, how it came into existence. We talk about some of its key people, such as Paul of Tarsus and um, Constantine, and why, by the evidence of history, we can say that Paul was a Roman spy, that Paul was Christian, but not Jesus. And we talked about, the process by which Christianity was established, taken into Haiti. And then in the first few sets, I spoke about my own personal uh, relationship with Christianity, being the son and grandson of Black Episcopalian priests, folks who left the United States, found freedom in Haiti, and that's where they built the Episcopalian Church of Haiti, of which my father and grandfather, several other members of the family served. Okay, so today, restitution, reparations, and remembre will focus on these three terms. From the time that President Aristide made the demand to that statement last few weeks from Naomi Osaka, the issue of reparations, we're going to make the distinction between those two terms, and then we conclude with this project of Remanbre, which is really self-repair, and we will discuss the manner in which we are proposing the self-repair to happen. And the object, the ultimate object, is to dump white Jesus into the nearest latrine, and to show due respect to our actual real life ancestors. And so, uh, let's get to it. We really reiterate the call for you to help us make this go. So if you are on the website, if you are on YouTube right now, click on subscribe so that you can get our material. We produce material in English, en français, and dans langue natif natal nous, créole haïtien, rek. Donc, ça veut dire que wap jwen bon bagay, okay? All right. So, restitution. It was on April 7th, 2003, that the president of Haiti, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, issued a formal demand for restitution of the French ransom. We will mention exactly what that French ransom was, but as you can see from this quote, that President Aristide made that statement that because slavery was a crime against humanity, we need one, restitution, two, reparations. We had to pay 90 million gold francs to France. Today, we demand at least the capitalized amount for the year 2003, that is 21 billion US. And you will see later on how they went very precisely to calculate the value of that ransom in 2003 time. Well, the man you see to the right with the other glasses is Patrice Lumumba, Prime Minister of the Congo, the first Prime Minister of the Congo after liberation from the Belgian colonizers. He took similar stands to that of President Aristide in 2003. That is, he insisted that the riches of the Congo serve the people of the Congo rather than the colonial, enslavers and barbarians who had invaded Congo. Well, the Congolese called upon their cousins, their white cousins in the United States, in England, and Canada. They all conspired. They kidnapped Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. They used the United Nations as a vehicle to facilitate the capture of Patrice Lumumba. And in January 1961, January 17th, 1961, they murdered the 35-year-old Patrice Emery Lumumba, and they dissolved his bones in acid. President Aristide did not know a similar fate, but right here in Ottawa, from where I am producing this show, he made the request on April 7th, 2003, but just a few weeks before that, January 31st, February 1st, 2003, a set of white diplomats met in Ottawa here, and they decided that they're going to put Haiti under UN tutelage and they're going to conduct a coup to overthrow the president because they had already had some issues with the fact that he was implementing social justice policies in favor of the black majority rather than catering to the white mafia that controls the economy of Haiti in cahoots with white mafia or corrupt politicians in the United States, Canada, and Europe. And so President Aristide did not last long. He never managed to finish a term in office. His first term was stopped by a coup 7 months after he took office by Papa Bush, H.G.W. Bush, the former CIA director, who became president of the United States in 1991. And after he made that restitution demand, he was overthrown a second time after 3 years in office. And since 2004, since that coup of February 29th, 2004, Haiti is governed by blackface puppets while the country is under formal UN occupation. Okay, so this is what happens when black people stand up and demand justice for their people. This is not, a single occurrence, as I mentioned. If you look at the history of Haiti, as we had, glanced over it in previous episodes, um, you could see that this is a natural type of reaction of the so-called white world towards the Africans who stand up for themselves, whether on the continent or outside of the continent. So when Haiti took its independence or declared the space to be free of slavery on January 1st, 1804, the whites were already conspired. And so Charles X, that you see here, this guy was king of France. He sent an armada to the waters of Haiti because by that time the army of Haiti had really been depleted. The Americans, the French, the Spanish, they were all, doing all kinds of actions to, isolate Haiti with embargoes so that these Africans cannot trade, etc. And so that ransom was demanded at gunpoint on April 17th, 1825. The estimation was 150 million gold francs for a territory 22 times smaller than Louisiana. Louisiana, that was at the time 1/3 of the United States, for which they only demanded, ask 80 million gold francs so that they would turn over Louisiana to the United States. But for Haiti, which was 22 times smaller, they demanded 150 million gold francs. So, of course, that was extortion. And this wasn't a single occurrence. I highlight here the fact that Haitian Emperor Faustin Soulouque refused to pay the French ransom. This is very important because oftentimes when they tell these stories, they don't mention the fact that there's always been resistance. Black people have never been, cowards who just let, the European criminals walk all over them. No. And when Faustin Soulouque told the French Amiral Duquesne, the hell with you, I'm not paying, I'd rather go to war. And since the French at the time was really bluffing, he actually had to go back to France without collecting at that period. And then, of course, the whites regrouped and then put more pressure on Haiti, and the ransom collection restarted. But like I said, it's not just the French. Gunboat attacks happened against Haiti from Germany, from Spain, from Britain, from the United States, and from France. And then eventually the United States invaded in 1915, occupied the territory, and you had all kinds of dictatorships that were established with the help of the CIA, which, for instance, trained the Totomacoutes of Duvalier. And like I mentioned, President Aristide issued the formal restitution demand on April 7th, 2003, with the consequences that we spoke about earlier. Okay, so after 18 years of the Western media vilifying Aristide, New York Times publishes this report that finally confirms that the US, France, and Canada orchestrated a coup against him in 2004, partly to kill his national campaign for reparations from France. This was announced, in the New York Times in 2022, where they did a whole story called The Ransom. But to speak about the importance of that ransom collected by the French and its impact on the people of Haiti, I will move to a couple of quotes from author now with the ancestors, Randall Robinson, who in his book, An Unbroken Agony, Haiti from Revolution to the Kidnapping of a President, where he's actually giving context that is very important and to understand also the role that the church, okay, played even in this particular crime. Okay, so Robinson tells us, unsurprisingly, the Black peasant community, impoverished by centuries of French slavery and devastated by the war that ended it, found itself in a state of perilous social disrepair. He continues to say, unlike the fair skinned Haitians who always had a monopoly on education, education by the early 1800s was a privilege rarely enjoyed by blacks. French abolitionist Victor Schlossler estimated that of a post-war population of 700,000 Haitian black children, only 1,000 were allowed to attend school. The Vatican had an avid hand in this discrimination, refusing to recognize the new republic until 56 years after its founding. Haitian historian Michel Wolfe-Trouillot describes the consequence to the fledgling republic of the Vatican's isolation. In Catholic Europe, as in the current and former colonies of Catholic nations, religious orders have always been the backbone of the formal education system. Starting from scratch with a population just liberated from slavery, Haiti badly needed the help that the missionaries could have provided. Saint-Domingue never, that is the slave colony before independence of Haiti, the French slave colony, Saint-Domingue never had a formal educational system, of course, and only a few of the richer mulattoes, that is the offspring of African women raped by the European slavers. A few of the richer mulattoes had been schooled in Europe. Both Alexandre Pétion in the south and Henri Christophe in the north had established primary schools in the areas they controlled. But those institutions were aimed primarily at the urban elite. By the time church schools were finally created after the 1860 Concordat with the Vatican, in which the Vatican formally recognized Haiti, these urban elites had already tuned the education system so that it would serve their needs exclusively. Okay? Now, to understand further, I really encourage you to check out the series by the United Nation, the New York Times articles of 2022, where they also explain how, although it was the light skin, or what I hate the stupid term mulatto, but you understand, these were the people who were ruling Haiti at the time. They are the ones who negotiated with the French, who capitulated to pay that ransom. But the money was actually collected on the back of the black peasants who were working the land. And so they closed all the public schools, like he mentioned, that were in the rural areas, and they started to destroy the remaining forest. The forest had already been destroyed by the French colonizers, but what was remaining, they cut all of these, the major trees like the mapu, the mahogany, in order to generate revenues to send to France. And actually, I need to take another look at another quote from Randall Robinson to talk about the impact of that collected ransom, because it's very important. I mean, they say 1 in 8 French people were, their lifestyle was subsidized by the Africans of Haiti during the collection of that ransom. So on page 22, Randall Robinson in An Unbroken Agony tells us, as late as 1915, 111 years after the successful slave revolt, some 80% of the Haitian government's resources, 80%, were being paid out in debt service to French and American banks on loans that had been made to enable Haiti to pay reparations to France. In 1922, 7 years into a 19-year American military occupation of Haiti that resulted in 15,000 Haitian deaths, the United States imposed a 16 million loan on the Haitian government to pay off its debt to France. The American loan was finally paid off in 1947. Haiti was left virtually bankrupt, its workforce in desperate straits. The Haitian economy has never recovered from the financial havoc France and America wreaked upon it during and after slavery. And so, Randall Robinson, like I said, is, you know, someone very special. He wrote The Debt, What America Owes to Blacks. He decided to leave the United States and move to St. Kitts, the country of his wife. And the esteemed scholar and brother um, joined the ancestors a few years back. But he describes in his book how exactly he was in communication with the president of Haiti while his country of birth, the United States, okay, was organizing the kidnapping of the black man who stood up for himself and his people. Anyways, let's proceed with the presentations and the jingle that the president of Haiti and his team had put out to promote the restitution demand as this became very popular, not only in Haiti, but throughout the world, especially in the Caribbean, where people were leading reparations movement for years, but the restitution request from Haiti is a low-hanging fruit because the estimation of its value is straightforward. The year that they started, I mean, this is armed robbery. They showed up with their guns, they pointed it to the National Palace, and they demanded the money. That's thief. Okay, so thievery. And so let's watch the jingle. It's very brief and quite self-explanatory.
Réparation, restitution à demander. Célébration, 604 de l'indépendance. Que c'est 1 milliard, 685 millions. 135 160,48. La France paye $1 moins pour fêter l'indépendance. Réparation, restitution. La France cale $1 moins pour fêter l'indépendance. Réparation, restitution. La France paye $1 moins pour fêter l'indépendance. Réparation, restitution. La France cale $1 moins pour fêter l'indépendance. Réparation, restitution. La France cale $1 moins pour fêter liberté.
Indeed. And so this was a momentous request, and we will now go back to the history so that we can talk about how it progressed from there. Restitution is a request that in the modern times, I can trace my own participation in it since August 1999, when I issued a challenge to then President of Haiti, René Garcia Préval, who was going to attend the meeting of La Francophonie, or the meeting of French and representatives of countries that were colonized by France. And this meeting was happening in Moncton in Canada. And then I wrote in my blog, Cause Nefta Cause Frais, which was on Henri Deschamps' platform at the time, iPortNet, a challenge. And I started sending letters to President Préval, to the ministers of foreign affairs, Fritz Longchamp at the time, and to Boutros Boutros-Ghali, Secretary General of the United Nations at the time, and said that, and of the Francophonie at the time, sorry, and said that no, Haiti will refuse to enter the new millennium and to continue to be part of ridiculous clubs like the Francophonie unless France pays the ransom that it collected from 1825 forward. President Preval received the communication, but he came to the Moncton meeting, which was happening in early September 1999, and he chickened out and did not make the request. This did not stop us. In 2001, for those of you who've been following the reparations movement, you're aware that before the 911 matter, what was really in the news in early September 2001 was the Durban Conference, where people from around the world gathered and said to the former colonial powers, it's time to pay up. You've spent all of these centuries living off the bones, the back, the sweat, the blood, the breast milk of Africans. Now it's time to pay up. And instead of them paying up, they ganged together and boycotted the conference in Durban, South Africa. Meanwhile, here in Canada, there was a meeting, a soccer game between the Haitian team and the French team during the Francophonie games that were being held in Ottawa. And so a group of us went and we opened a large banner saying slavery, reparations, shame. And then we distributed a pamphlet which talked about the ransom and the necessity to make restitution. And so the movement continued. What is important for folks to realize is that it will continue, and they will not be able to silence us just because they had kidnapped the president of Haiti. Okay? To make the point again, in 2005, precisely on May 18th, 2005, we went in front of the French embassy with the restitution demand, with signatures of people from all around the world who were saying, yes, President Aristide was right, and it is time for France to pay the long overdue reparations. And so I will share with you a brief video of how it happened.
Nous ne voulons plus que de jeunes meurent de malnutrition, de faim, de polio, de typhoïde, de malaria, parce qu'ils n'ont pas assez d'argent pour se nourrir, alors qu'ils ont 22 milliards de dollars qui sont en France et qui accumulent de l'intérêt sans rien faire. Donc, Kevin d'Haïti remet officiellement la pétition à l'agent Laflamme de la GRC. Il va le remettre et vous confirmez, M. Laflamme, que vous allez le donner aux responsables de l'ambassade de France. Remercie.
Réparation, restitution pour Haïti.
Indeed, there is no way for the French to escape the reality that we are going to continue to clamor, to demand reparations, to demand restitution. And there is no place for them to hide. As you will see here, that was in Ottawa, what I just showed you. Now, in Montreal, that was just last year, our comrade Yves Engler caught Emmanuel Macron, who was in visit in Ottawa. And again, listen to what happened.
Monsieur Macron, est-ce que tu vas aller payer la dette d'indépendance à Haïti? Tu vas repayer Haïti? C'est quand que la France va repayer Haïti? La dette d'indépendance, 40 milliards de dollars, Monsieur Macron. Quand vous allez repayer cette dette d'indépendance?
So Yves is asking Macron, and Macron thought that it was someone who was going to, congratulate him for something. And then he realized, oh shit, this is an ambush, because Yves was clearly echoing what the Haitians have been saying for years, that the French need to repair and pay the money that they owe. Now, look, this is just last week in France, in Paris. France, pay your debt to Haiti. Okay? It's not going away. There's just no way that you're going to get away with crime year after year. Men and women of all generations are going to tell you that the direct impoverishment of Africans in Haiti, in Guadeloupe, in Martinique, all around the world is directly linked to how you have enriched yourself of the backs of black men and women, stealing everything they own, including the breast milk of their grandmothers. And so, Haitians were calling for reparations back in 2001. This is the pamphlet that I mentioned here that we distributed at the game. And you can see the picture here of Brother Danny Glover, who was attending the Durban conference in 2001. Okay, and they boycotted the Durban conference, but the demand is still there because justice has not been done. On the contrary, the whites went to Africa in 1885 and colonized the whole continent, stealing everything, killing people. Reparations is long overdue. And so they continue to prop up puppet regimes so that they can steal the natural resources of the Congo, of Niger, of Burkina Faso, of Mali, instead of doing the right thing. And so it behooves us to continue to put pressure. And so what happens in 2018? I was the delegate for Haiti at this conference in Caracas, Venezuela. And as I have been pushing for it for a number of years now, I submitted to the delegates at that conference that we need to take account of all three M's in the set of criminals that participated in the crime of kidnapping of Africans and enslaving of Africans and of the native populations of the Americas. The three M's, the militaries, of course, of the nations, France, United States, Germany, Spain, Sweden, Denmark. Sometimes people forget these players, of course, and the UK. But the merchants, companies like Wells Fargo, okay, participated in the crime. And of course, the missionaries, because from the first arrival of Zinglendo, of the kidnappers with Christopher Columbus, the cross and the priests, the criminals in long robes, were already there. And so it's all three of them that need to be held to account. And I was pleasantly surprised when Sister Comrade Norma Romero, president of CONADEFACO, CONADECAFRO, read the Venezuelan Declaration in support of reparations for the indigenous peoples of Africa and of the Americas, that all three Eurocriminal M's were duly identified for prosecution: the militaries, the merchants, and the missionaries. And so, Viva Zapata! And President Hugo Chavez, was always proud of his African roots. And President Maduro is leading a number of meetings on reparations. That's a very important thing, because it's very important for us to always remember it's not just the Africans or the native peoples of the Americas. It's together. We need to lead this battle for justice. And of course, this concerns descendants of the Europeans as well, who want to do the right thing. Remanbre. And so at that conference in Caracas, not only did I propose that we focus on the criminals, the slavers in long robes, because the church had its own set of people that it enslaved. The church stole an immense amount of properties and territories during the colonial and the neo-colonial period, and so they are definitely part of it. But what I proposed is that we work on self-repair. What does that mean? In the previous weeks, I talk about the psychological impact of growing up looking at white Jesus, white Mary, and all of these stupidities of imaginary people or entities that never existed, and that just engulfs our lives and take the space that belongs rightfully to our real ancestors. But then where are Africans going to find the resources to go through, psychological consultations for reparations of their souls, of their spirits? Well, I'm saying we already have it. It's the churches. We need to force the Holy See, Inc., that corporation where its officers are sitting in Rome, in the Vatican City. We need to force them to relinquish the keys to all of these properties and to return them to the native peoples of Africa and of the Americas. And when it is in communities in other places like Europe, in North America, to the Black communities and the indigenous communities, so that we can transform those churches. And inside of those churches, we will transform it so that they are appropriate places for people to regain their consciousness. I know there are people who say, well, there are other ways that this can be done. So, for instance, now the church is considering having a Black pope. Get the hell out of here. That's not a solution. That's actually further entrenching into the crime. Putting Black faces in the corporation of criminals is not going to make it any better, any more than having Barack Obama in the White House dropping bombs on pharmacies in Africa, or having those ridiculous Black people who are at the UN voting against the Palestinians, or having Michael Jean, the Black Haitian woman, becoming the Governor General of Canada, representing the Queen of England, and fetching her to go to Africa, asking the Africans to ask for forgiveness for their participation in the so-called transatlantic slave trade. First of all, there was no trade. Europeans built those ships in Europe. You committed the crime. You masterminded the whole thing, and you benefited from it from generation to generation. So don't try to escape your responsibility by taking a Black woman to go to Africa to go lecture Africans because a few Africans were too cowardly to fight. That obscuring the truth. And so African people need to stop being excited about some, Black person entering the White House, entering the Canadian Parliament or the French Parliament. That's not progress. What we want is for the impoverished people of Mali to have access to the uranium of Mali, to the gold of Mali. The impoverished people of Bolivia who are living in the mountains there, where all of the lithium is, to have access to their lithium. It doesn't belong to Elon Musk. It belongs to them. And so reparations through Remanbre is what we're talking about. They can have a Black pope, whatever pope they want. What we're calling for is for their business to shut down and all of the resources to go to the victims. And this is not radical. This is actually way late in the game. It should have happened long time ago. Because as you can see in that image there presented, when they were collecting that ransom from the people of Haiti, they were literally stealing Haiti's breast milk. This is the equivalent of the nation's breast milk, because the nation was young, it had no friends, it was surrounded by white supremacist entities, enemies, slave driving nations. The British had stolen Jamaica to the north of Haiti. Okay, they had Cuba that was stolen by the Spanish, Puerto Rico by the Spanish. No friends around, and the other nations were building their infrastructure. That was the time of the Industrial Revolution. People were building highways, big cities, etc. Meanwhile, Haiti was feeding the French. And so that's the breast milk of Haiti. Just like when the African woman was on the plantation, the white child was breastfeeding and the white woman was, whatever around. She didn't have to breastfeed, but the African woman was leaving her own baby malnourished, dying, watching while this white child was suckling her own mother. Theft. We need to move to a different paradigm. It's not progress when you are just going around invading people's lands and stealing what they have. It's not just Donald Trump doing it. The whole of Europe was established on that. Canada was established on that. We need to come to terms with it. Where is the black population of Argentina? Murdered, genocided. That's what we need to talk about. And so, when we will get those churches, the keys to all of these properties currently owned by the Holy See Inc., that corporation based in the Vatican, from the Church of England, from other Protestant churches that participated in the crime. Okay, the companies, the legal entities that are in countries right now, whether it is France, the United States, Spain, etc., then all of these buildings will become healing centers, Remanbre. In Haitian Creole, Remanbre means to gain back your members, okay? To gain them back. And in those churches, you will not see statues or pictures of imaginary white Jesus, Joseph, Moses. All of these stupidities will be taken down and dumped into the nearest latrine. What you will see are images of Tupac Amaru, the resistance leader who fought in Peru. You will see images of Casilda Kundumi Demele. You see, I'm having difficulty pronouncing the names of my own people because that too was stolen. We'll gain it back. Self-repair. That's what we will be teaching in those Remanbre Centres, so that African children can learn about their real ancestors. The Africans in Haiti will learn the story of Queen Nani, the Maroon of Jamaica, the story of Shaka Zulu, who did amazing work against the British invaders in Azania, which the fools renamed South Africa. We will learn about the stories of Zumbi, whether it is a child who is in New York or in Paris or in the Nassau, the Bahamas. They deserve to know about Zumbi, who stood up in Brazil and led revolts and created communities of people who defended freedom. And so today, when we see Brother Ibrahim Traore stand up so majestically, so beautifully, so elegantly, so black in Burkina Faso, we know That's because Thomas Sankara is alive. We know it's because Jean-Jacques Dessalines is alive. And the way Dessalines, Tupac Amaru, Widi Medikeza Mandela, Casilda can be alive is if we honor them, is if a newborn child today is named Casilda, a newborn child today is named Tupac Amaru, a newborn child today is named Winnie Madikileza. It's our responsibility to honor our real ancestors. When the criminals claim to be worshiping the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that's their business because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is their ancestors. It's not my ancestor. Do you, we will do us. Our ancestors deserve to live. You murdered Patrice Lumumba when he was only 35, Thomas Sankara when he was only 37. Dr. Martin Luther King was only 39. He did not live to see a 40th anniversary. Neither did Malcolm X. Neither did Maurice Bishop of Grenada. Who killed them? Satan? No. Washington, D.C. That's where Satan lives. Liberation is not a word. It's a responsibility. And Dessalines left that responsibility to us, and he warned us not to be complacent because the work is not finished. Standing there in Brazil, in Salvador de Bahia, at the feet of Zumbi, I could feel the presence of my ancestors, as many of my DNA cousins are in Brazil. Because the criminals who participated in the enslavement of my ancestors, many of them came from Portugal. When the Pope, Nicholas V, decreed that it was fair game for them Europeans to go and kidnap non-Christians and enslave them. How many Haitians have the ability to travel to go to Brazil? Well, then, those who do have that ability, we cannot just enjoy the ride. We need to share the knowledge, and it is not for academic exercise. It's for revolution. It's for transformation. And that takes the shape of physically taking the action of dumping right Jesus, white Moses, white Abraham, white all of these stupidities to the nearest latrine. Liberate the minds of our peoples so that we can save this planet. So we can spend our time doing science instead of wasting all of our brain cells learning all kinds of stupidities like Jeroboam and Methusalem, the things that you're reading in Deuteronomy and all kinds of stupidities in the word of the white man that we're calling the word of God. Sheikh Anta Diop said, it is not sufficient for us to be writing books of research, whether it is of science, of history, in English, in French, in Spanish. We need to produce them in Wolof. We need to produce them in Ewe, in Fangbe, in Kiswahili, in Lingala, in Yoruba. I have done my modest contribution with this work, published in the year 2000, Viv Bondye à bas religion, Praise God Down with Religion, and all of the material that I've presented in the past few weeks are essentially based on this work. And it is my hope to be able to produce an English version, if time permits, a Portuguese version. But what I'm encouraging people who are interested in the topic to do is to consider what your own contribution might be. You might be an artist. You might be doing hip hop. You might one day have the attention of the world. Well, please use it to do something worthy, like Muhammad Ali did when he stood majestically, beautifully, powerfully in the 60s, like Nina Simone did. You know, use your talent not to shake, your booty like they expect you to, not to entertain them on the soccer field, on the football field, just being an entertainer. No. Nina Simone said we have to represent the time. And so when you saw Naomi Osaka the other day with a very brief statement, take to issue Emmanuel Macron and the French who are pretending to suffer Alzheimer and not remembering that they owe Haiti, Naomi Osaka is doing exactly what is needed by the so-called black elite. Our children will not forgive us if we do not make valuable contribution in our generation. I salute you, brother Shakara Okeame, and praise you for all the work that you're doing with Kazumi Media. Sorry, I probably did not pronounce it properly. If you could type it, actually, that would be useful if you can type your channel. This brother is doing amazing work, a lot of great interviews. I've had the privilege of being part of his show in the past. Here's what one of the fools printed on YouTube earlier. Forcing the innocent to pay non-victims for something that happened to neither of them is not reparation. That's Michael Coffey. So the innocent, right? So I presume that those who are living off the riches of their ancestors in France today, in Britain, so for instance, if you take those pictures of the so-called King of England and his very crown that he's wearing today, all of the jewels were stolen from South Africa, from India, and is still innocent, right? Like, what kind of audacity can that be? Something that happened to neither of them, really? King Leopold cutting the arms of all of these people in Cameroon never happened. It's a long time ago, really? The cities of the United States, that were bombarded by the government of the United States because they had too many black lawyers, black architects, black doctors. Never happened. Anyways, I wish I could say more to you, Michael Coffey, but in reality, I'm not doing this program for you. I couldn't really care less about what you think, what you do. This is about me and my people. Okay. Other people who have enough sense to understand the urgency of what I'm talking about, good for them, but it may not be a priority for them. I understand that in our history, you had this man named John Brown, who was a white American who said in 1859, he will not sit down here and accept racial slavery in the United States. He didn't go and look for excuses. John Brown got on his horse and attacked the government of the United States, which was a racist criminal entity. And when they captured brother John Brown. The government of the United States murdered him. There's this painting of, engraving of a black woman bringing her child to go and kiss John Brown because there was genuine, acknowledgement that this human being had committed race and class suicide in order to do the right thing. That's the only way the right thing can be done. And so I'm saying this to my white brothers and sisters. It's no point talking about, an apology from the Pope. I don't give a shit about the Pope apologizing. He can keep his apology. What we want is the gold that is in Vatican City, the gold that is on his seat, to be melted and given back to the people of Africa. What are you talking about? So narcissistic, always thinking about self, self, self. It's not about you, it's about the victims. That's all I had to share with you, brothers and sisters. Next week, 7 p.m., another edition of God is Not White. Ayibobo.
Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.